Well, the chain of events in Sweden last fall was very un-Swedish as well. It was very, keep in mind that the charges was brought forth and an arrest warrant was issued. The day later it was withdrawn from a higher-ranking prosecutor. Then politics came into play in the running up for the Swedish election, and the case was reopened.
Do you believe there's pressure from outside, from the United States?
I have no proof of that.
But it seems to be what you're suggesting, that political influence has played a part here.
It could be local political angles in Sweden as well. A lot of the players in that case are coming from the same party.
What role do you expect or hope the Australian government will play, and does Julian Assange expect or hope the Australian government will play as this unfolds?
Well, he hopes, and naturally, of course, that the Australian government would support him and condemn the attacks against Wikileaks. It was quite extraordinary a few months ago when your Prime Minister basically claimed that Wikileaks was doing something illegal, even though nobody has charged the organization or the founder, Julian Assange.
Julian Assange describes himself as a publisher. Since doing your job effectively as a journalist is an offence against the Espionage Act in the United States. This is a very important title. Do you believe he's a publisher, a journalist, or something else?
Of course he is. I mean, Wikileaks is a part of the journalistic community. I've been a journalist for 20 years, and when I started working with Wikileaks last summer, and I didn't cross any line, I'm still a journalist, and we are still doing journalism. We're unearthing fact and giving it to the public. That's what journalists are supposed to do.
The editor of the New York Times, Bill Keller, pointedly refuses to refer to Julian Assange as a journalist. He calls him a source, which does tend to undermine his defence in the United States that he's in fact a journalist and he's got a different purpose in what he's doing. Do you think Keller has helped to undermine the case that Assange is a journalist?
Well, if Bill Keller believes that Julian is a source, it is quite interesting how the New York Times is then treating their sources by stabbing them in the back with the sleazy hit pieces on the front page of the New York Times, etc. That's not a very honourable thing for a journalist to do, to attack its source, is it?
Do you think he's undermined the case that Assange is a journalist, which would actually help him against the Espionage Act?
Possibly. I mean, what the US media has been quite different from the media in the rest of the world with regard to this. Keep in mind that we are now still working on the Cablegate project. We have now made agreements with media and news organizations all around the world. There are now more than 75 media outlets publishing or have been publishing stories based on the cables. We've had very good relations with most of them, and I've never heard anybody doubt that Wikileaks is a journalistic organization and that Julian is a publisher.
Is Wikileaks still functioning today as it was? If someone like Private Manning wanted to post on Wikileaks the same type of information, secret information belonging to a government, would it be able to do that?
Not by the electronic anonymous Dropbox. It has been closed for months. We have been quite overwhelmed with working on the information that is already in place, and it would be wrong to have a lot of information coming in which we could not process properly.
Is the Dropbox closed because your former colleague Daniel Domscheit-Berg took the secret codes which are meant to be used for the protection of people who use that Dropbox? It's
part of the reason that he and his colleague sabotaged the system, but we didn't put an emphasis on opening up again because of the reason that I mentioned, that we have a lot of information. But despite the fact that the Dropbox is closed for submission, information has had a way of getting to us.
Will Wikileaks ever be reopened for business in the way that it was at its height, or has Wikileaks itself become a kind of victim of this war against secrecy?
Well, I think that Wikileaks will continue in some way. The most important thing, though, is to keep in mind that Wikileaks has already done a great thing, in my mind, in presenting the idea of anonymous drop boxes, which others are copying, which is a good thing if they are providing a secure platform. What is the future of Wikileaks? It's hard to say. We are under constant attacks. Still, the strongest financial institutions in the world are trying to strangle us financially. It's still not possible for cardholders of Visa or MasterCard to donate to the organization. It has now been for 6 months. Same applies to PayPal. And Bank of America will not process bank transactions, etc. This is outrageous.
So how do you keep it going with no money?
Well, we do have some money. It has slowed us down because we haven't been able to grow and expand our operation the way we would have. But it will not stop us.
Kristinn Hrafnsson, we thank you very much. We'll have to leave you there.
Thank you. Good day.